Well, hi, this is Scott Griffith, and welcome to another edition of our Land and Legacy. Today, I am here without my guest host, my sister, my partner at Griffith Realty. She's in warmer climates, so it's just me, but I am not totally alone because we have a wonderful guest today. We have Marcia Gebarowski from the Livingston County Economic Development Corporation, and I've had the pleasure of serving on it, and Marcia is our Livingston business representative. And we are here today to talk a little bit about economic development in the county and what's gone on, and celebrate 10 years of Arbor Spark being our economic driver for our county. So, Marcia, you've actually not been for 10 years the person here in Livingston County.
No, not 10 years.
We started with Phil Santer being our first representative here, and Phil's gone on to greater things in Spark. But we're glad that Marcia could come in because she had a great history of living here and knowing our community and coming from the MEDC. And
right.
So you brought in lots of good stuff for us. So, Marcia, let's just summarize for a few minutes here. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with Spark in the county, and then we can talk about some of the history and all that. So,
no, I'd love to. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, it's fun.
So I am with Arbor Spark, and we are contract staff to the Economic Development Council of Livingston County. So yes, we are celebrating 10 years, and I am incredibly honored to say that I've been the director leading the charge in Livingston County for 5.
Wow.
It'll be 5 years this year.
Nice.
So yeah, just having that opportunity to do local economic development work in my hometown where I grew up, and to see how we're supporting the businesses and seeing the county grow responsibly, but at the same time in a very competitive manner.
So I think, for a lot of people, it sounds interesting, economic development, but I think it needs to be almost, how should I say, better defined. I mean, the role that I was involved in being, I believe I was the chairman at the time of a time that we hired Spark to represent us as our person on the ground, shall we say, for economic development in the county. And the concept is you're helping us with attraction and with retention of our businesses. And I think that's key. I don't think people understand. It's not all about just trying to get more people in here. It's about keeping the people we have. And then it's not just about keeping the people, but getting new. So it goes both directions. I think the concept of, I guess you probably can articulate even better than I, since you're in this, but I think people need to understand the importance of why we need to attract and retain. Some of those assets we are like taxes. What other things can you think of that are like that our community benefits from this?
Well, I think where in the world of local economic development, it is a lot of attracting the new businesses, but not just going after any industry. It's knowing your community, knowing the region and your workforce. So it's knowing the factors to go after the industries that you can win.
Sure.
And what will be a good fit in the communities that we have here. So again, we do hone in on those industries that we know that would be a good fit for Livingston County. It might not always be medical. It might not, Ann Arbor is a huge tech cluster with the technology coming out of the University of Michigan and Eastern.
Sure.
But what Livingston is able to be home to can provide so much more. And so we want to see a balance. We have manufacturing, we want to see office, we want to see a combination of wages so that people can live in the county at a starting level job and then be able to grow in their career.
Sure.
And stay in the county. So that's what we strive to do. And what the county has to offer. So, yes, we've got the lowest county taxes in the state. So from a tax-based level, it is a very still competitive business environment because of our lower taxes. We do have a good workforce, a very talented workforce that larger companies could draw from, that live right here, that would probably love not to travel an hour to work every day.
I mean, to me, that's so, I already mentioned taxes, but I think that ability to be able to work local
Right.
It creates community pride.
Does.
It allows people to be able to have access to be able to not only live here but work here, to have those. It creates community. I think if you have to drive out of your community to work, or you have to drive, I think you separate things too much, you lose community. And I think, as you know, having grown up here, it creates community. It keeps people here, allows them to feel proud about their schools because they go to school where they work, or they work where they go to school, I should say. But anyway, that kind
Absolutely. And as a personal example, simply by the virtue of me working locally, I have the time to do things I love, like working with some of our local nonprofits that I just simply have the time for because of lack of commute.
Yeah, it's just you have that ability, right? Yeah. And so, I can't help but to reminisce. I guess that's what happens when you get to my age. But, I can remember when the county first committed to creating the Economic Development Corporation, and people said, well, why would you do it? But everybody at the time could see that traction was important. And I think that, for years we used to say, I think that the industry brought $7 of benefit to every community. And to be perfectly frank, even though people pay taxes, they actually drain the economic resources of townships. So you need industry to replenish it. So that's what some of the economics of it does. So that's the other positive. But when we formed the EDC, the first director back in those days was Jim Thompson, and he literally used to say one of his first big successes was Gordon Foods coming here to the distribution site, because every time he drove the expressways, Gordon Foods passed him on the expressway, and he called him up and said, you need a distribution center here in Livingston County. And that was the first big attraction.
First big win.
Yeah, that was the big kickoff,
I think that was the anchor of that industrial park down there by Silver Lake.
I think so too. That started the Kensington Industrial Park start and everything from that, and now it's full, and
it is very much full.
and so and there's been a lot of really great things that have happened over the years that are some of them are not so visible. I think probably one of the ones that I remember another director, Fred Dillingham, worked on, and it was such a success, is the Proving Grounds in Fowlerville, which frankly, the majority of people living in Livingston County don't even know there's another Proving Grounds, and it's right down in Fowlerville, and it's going all and it's a state-of-the-art, high-tech facility that has all sorts of special braking facilities. But again, another huge win for our community that so few people know about, and yet it's so crucial to economic development and what the EDC has done for our community,
Absolutely.
So, we take great pride in what you do, Marcia. It's great.
Thank you.
So we're really pleased. I don't. So what do you sort of see as the next step? Where do you think this is going right now economically here?
In Livingston County, especially over the last year, what we saw in the state was, and if I could preface a little bit, ever since the recession, there has been a little bit of a hesitancy, especially from our communities and our employers as well. They were expansion and growth and relocation. Yeah. They thought long and hard before they took those actions, especially to go into a new region and to set up shop.
Sure.
So we certainly saw our local companies grow and expand. I think what I've taken a lot of pride in is seeing that happen, especially if a business changed ownership hands, that they stayed in the county, and then that new entity saw the value of that operation, saw the value of the location that we are here in the county, comparatively in the region, and make that investment, continue investment. What we're seeing now and what we're going to continue to see is, at an attraction level, I think there's going to be more boots in that attraction arena where we haven't put that much emphasis, at least at a statewide level. And again, a lot of the priorities that we do locally and regionally do come from how programs are established at the state. So when Florida announced their large investment in Kentucky and Tennessee, and the state quickly went, no, we need to be ready with more sites. We need to be better prepared. And so that's going to be something that will be a priority for Livingston County, for me to look at the sites that we have, what's ready, how can we ready these sites for attraction projects, what makes sense. And then that's that's going to be happening again. That's happening across the state.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's sort of to put a exclamation point on your point about retention and keeping businesses over the last few years that were here already and maybe they changed hands. We've had a number of them. Our earliest example probably was like Thermofill. Becoming
Asahi
Kasai, and they're still here, and they went from Brighton to Fowlerville, but they're still here, and they're such a crucial part of our community and everything they do. We've seen the turnover of Ogahara and to be held by another multinational company. We've seen that. I'm trying to think of the one out near the airport. Those folks came.
Thompson is now Thompson. And then there was another one. I think it was Dana. I forget, but Chemcrest.
Yes, Chemcrest.
With locations in both Brighton and Fowlerville.
So wonderful that they've stayed here. And if you haven't picked up even in my conversation, is one of the fascinating things that makes Livingston County, in my opinion, so great for attraction and retention is the fact when you look at on a global basis, we're a green spot near a industrial area. We're the green area. So we have many international people who, when they look at the map, they don't think we're that far away from Detroit and from Lansing and from Flint, and yet we're the green area that you can go out to. And so we have investments from everywhere in the world here in our community, and people don't understand how many nations are represented in their industry in our community.
Yeah, Livingston's been very favorable for foreign direct investment from all over the world. And
just amazing, really. You know?
Great opportunity for that to continue, and that becomes part of our talking points when we are talking to representatives from Italy, representatives from Japan, representatives from all over.
Isn't that great? We're people just don't realize we're kind of a melting pot of the industrial side here.
Yeah, we really are.
I can understand most businesses, they want to do what they do best and they're not out to promote it, but it's fun for us to have them in our backyard.
Yeah, we've got two not newer businesses, but two businesses in Livingston that are now owned by Indian corporations from India. So
cool.
Just continuing that network. But on the retention side, it's my main focus with my team is making sure we've got those relationships, making sure every one of those businesses in the county, they know who we are. We know who the points of contacts are at those operations, and that we've got a good enough relationship with them that Spark will be the first that they call if they need a resource, if they need, you talked about if we wanted to diversify our sales, you talked about this grant. We weren't ready 6 months ago. We think we're ready now.
Wow.
And so it's those retention calls. It's just the outreach and the relationships with some of these local companies have turned into friendships over the years. And then I see more and more of the collaboration among these companies, and I love seeing it.
And of course, I'm biased, but I know you've done a wonderful job. I've seen it too, and I know, and they say good things about you, and it is what it's all about, right?
Right.
And it's you're that point person. I mean, somebody is also, and you're the perfect person for it, that goes into the townships and municipalities, into the county. We need. It's a two-way street, and if I'm an industry and I'm a multinational company, I don't know the township manager who, frankly, I now need to talk to because I need an expansion or I have a problem. Yeah. And you're the person, and it's wonderful to have somebody who's like yourself that's been local and have someone like Spark who's so professional that knows how to deal with those issues. Otherwise, those people would be floundering, and it would be difficult.
And the kudos to you and the EDC. So the EDC, in my world, there's two forms. There's these public-private partnerships, which the EDC is. So the board is made up of private sector and public sector.
Yes. Yeah.
Some economic development agencies are just a part of government, and so that's really the only influence they have. So because we've got that, my board is both private sector and industry representatives and public sector. So for instance, about 4 years ago, a Canadian seedling grower, reached out. They were working with the state of Michigan, and the MEDC said, "Oh, you're looking at this location. You're going to be put in touch with Marcia." And they're like, "We don't know where." They thought they were in Genoa Township. I'm like, "No, your site is technically in Hamburg Township." And so now we've got this wonderful greenhouse operation, PRT. Happens to be in Hamburg Township, but the first meeting that we were able to set up, and of course I know Pat, and we were able to get that process underway very, very easily, because we have that in the board, and at the same time that type of the split level of the board gives me both perspectives.
Sure.
So people from industry and my utility partners are saying, "Yeah, this is great. Let's get these spec buildings done." And then some of my communities are like, "Well, think double hard about where people might live. And what are we going to do about some strategies around attainable housing and other things that economic developers do touch on these days?"
Sure, absolutely. And as you're going down that road, that's, this whole workforce housing's the issue, right? I mean, we just finished saying how wonderful it is to be able to work where you live.
Right.
But then if because we're so desirable both for companies, whereas the same way for housing, it drives the market through the roof on pricing, and it makes it very difficult to be a single income or even a dual income family, but get paid at a different level than maybe some people that drive into more urban environments and they can shop more different jobs. And so workforce housing is a huge issue, and obviously being in real estate, I get it. Nothing's worse than to tell somebody you got a great job, everything's great except for we may not be able to find a house that you want to live in because of the lifestyle you want to live, and it's tough. I do think we've learned the hard way after the last recession. Jobs is also always an issue, but I think it's great the way the Economic Development Corporation stepped up to help solve that. And if people haven't seen the MTA buses, that's a relationship that was only initiated because what the EDC was willing to reach out to Flint and say, how can we make this work? You have people that need to work, and we got people who need employees. So how do we do this,
Right. And that MTA every day brings at least 1,300 employees into Livingston County. 24/7.
Isn't that amazing? It'd be great if they could live here. We just got to figure out the housing step next. But until then, it's wonderful we have a transportation system that is facilitating keeping our businesses going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'd love to see more collaboration if we could. And certainly if as Let's grows, and if there's that opportunity to connect the MTA with Let's so that more businesses along Grand River might be able to benefit from
that's great.
We're still looking at how we can continue to grow that.
Yeah, I think that we'd be naive to think there's a silver bullet out there that's going to solve the housing. So until that can be done, having people be able to get here to work here conveniently is a great thing. There's no other transportation system, so I think what you all have done to initiate this is phenomenal. Phenomenal, and it's great. It's I've heard enough to hear that employers like it too. That it's a great thing. So when you think about it, there's just so many clever and good things that's been done in these 10 years.
Those little programs to help our employers.
There's a lot going on out there,
It really
So,
is.
It probably leads to, if you're doing all this work, the big question would obviously be how does the EDC get funded? And I don't think, I think for anybody who thinks it's just magic and it just happens, they're wrong. There's a funding mechanism. And as I will say right up front, the municipalities many have contributed, and our county government has done a wonderful job of stepping up and helping lend support. And then there's the private sector that have invested. I don't know. What's the distribution, would you say, between private and public funding nowadays? What's approximately?
I would say the goal was always between our townships, villages, and cities, the county, in private sector. It was a third. It was supposed to be a third, a third, a third.
Sure.
And right now, I would say the county might be a little bit higher. About 2 years ago, our private sector funding started to dwindle a little bit. Spark, now on my team, we have a development coordinator
Nice.
to work on just private sector funding, perhaps sponsorships for events. But really, at the end of the day, the EDC is a nonprofit organization.
Right.
So
right.
we do want to talk about the mission and the vision of the EDC, the work that Spark does for those mission funders. And that's been really helpful at the private sector level because the companies do know who we are.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just they've never been asked.
Right.
And so
right.
now
and
we have somebody saying, hey, would you consider, here are some benefits towards it. And a few companies have taken on that opportunity in the last year, our first year of having our development coordinator, because they wanted a seat on the board. And that can be a benefit.
Sure.
Our board is made up of funders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just been, we are seeing that grow a little bit, but we're not quite at a third. I would say maybe 20% private. But I am very confident that
Sure.
in the next 18 months or so, we'll see that back at a third level.
I mean, and that's why the benefit of having governmental support is because there are things like recessions, and we went through one.
Right.
It's why funding many times can change in the private sector because you have your priorities and your price. And if things are contracting, you can't very well be funding even though it's noble to be able to fund something like the EDC. So I'm confident you're right. I think we'll get to the third again. I think we're very close. And the beauty is, I think there's been some expansion in the budget to allow for even more work that's been done and more people, and that's great. I think it's great. We couldn't be more proud of what the Spark's done with the EDC and what the EDC's done for our community. We just think it's great. I mean, clearly, in our industry, we reap the benefits from everybody being employed and then having good jobs and having good companies around us because it helps support our nonprofits, like you say. It keeps them with volunteers and with finances and so it goes both ways. So it creates a great community.
Yeah, companies like Chemcrest, where it's like it's in their culture.
Yes.
And so when we want to help develop our businesses, even our existing businesses, of sharing those best practices so that we have more businesses with the culture that, again, supports our communities, want to. Engagement with the schools has been phenomenal with our employers. It's been such a great relationship and collaboration to see.
Yeah, we're very lucky and we're very blessed, and we thank you for all that you're doing, Marcia. Yeah. Thank you so much. And again, as you say, you're a homegrown EDC person for us.
Some days it doesn't even feel like work.
I know. It's good. That's the way it's supposed to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, because I do this with everybody who comes from this area. It's fun to just get some spin. What's your favorite thing you like to do in the county?
Okay, so my favorite thing to do in the county, I still have younger kids, and they absolutely love going to the Tridge and Mill Pond.
Yeah, that's great.
And so downtown Brighton is an absolute destination, especially on Saturday mornings for farmers market.
Oh, that's fun.
And the Oh My Lolly still sometimes hides tokens for a free sucker in the Imagination Station. And you better believe my 10-year-old will find one.
He'll find one? Oh, that's great. That's great.
Probably that is absolutely our favorite.
I'm sure your dentist loves you for that too.
Yeah.
And then finally, what's your favorite place to go eat in Livingston County?
Oh. So, we had talked about this earlier.
I know, I tipped you off. This question's coming.
But I have a new favorite.
What's that?
The Cozy Inn.
Really?
Their food is phenomenal.
Well, that's great.
I can tell you, it's, I had their pizza for the first time it's 50% off pizza on Saturdays.
Oh, there we go.
Pizza was so good. I've kind of been a regular there.
That's great. That's great. That's fun.
The Cozy Inn.
Sounds like there's another one too. You said, was there another place? You said another favorite.
So I just another favorite of mine has been Brighton Bar and Grill.
Oh, Oh, good. Yeah.
So just
easy to understand.
It's that
Wonderful
traditional
food.
level. And I do have a lot of friends that are vegan, vegetarian, and that menu just seems to be very friendly to a lot of different diets.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
Well, that's what makes it a community. You have great places to
Right?
be able to go eat and play and everything else. So,
Yeah.
but so again, Marcia, thank you so much for your time today. And
That was an
thank
honor.
you. Thanks for what you do for the EDC. It is wonderful. We're glad you're here. And
Thank you.
And with that, this will be another podcast of the Land and Legacy.